Hey guys, welcome back to Nerd of the Rings. Today is one of my favorite days out of the year. Basically, it's any day we get to talk about new Tolkien books. And it just so happens that today we're going to be talking about new editions of one of my absolute favorite books. I adore this book. It is The Hobbit. And we've got a regular edition. Both are illustrated by J.R.R. Tolkien, featuring over 50 illustrations, and some of them are published for the first time in this edition. So we're going to go over both the regular edition and the deluxe edition. We'll talk about the extra goodies that you get in the deluxe. And then at the end, I'm going to give a few of my thoughts on where I hope that we're heading in the future with publishing new editions of Tolkien's existing books. As you can tell, we've got this really rich green color that we have with these Hobbit editions. Should look really nice next to the blue of the Silmarillion and the red of Lord of the Rings. I'll get the other editions out so we can see them side by side here. But for now, let's focus on the regular edition, and then we'll move on to the deluxe here in a moment. Like I said, this is a nice deep green, and then we've got in this circle here, you'll notice if this looks familiar, this is actually a portion of the original cover of The Hobbit. So we've got the mountains there. It looks really nice. I'll start by taking off the slip cover so you can see what it looks like underneath. I really like that. That looks pretty sharp. The gold and white kind of embossed on there looks really sharp. And then we've got the spine, and the back is just a solid green. And before I get too far into the book, I'll point out that on the edge of the pages, it's all in blue, like last year's Silmarillion was green, and there's printing. Last year it was in Elvish. This time we get it in runes. And in case you're wondering, this says The Hobbit or There and Back Again by J.R.R. Tolkien. And then on the front we get runes as well. So again, this is actually the same text. It's The Hobbit or There and Back Again. And I also love that we get a little Smaug in gold here, as well as the J.R.R. Tolkien signature on the front. It's a really nice presentation. And with that, let's get into the book itself. Right inside the cover here, we had our first of the included goodies. And, here we have Thror's map. That's pretty cool. So this is interesting. I noticed when I was pulling it out, it's got the runes on the back here. Really, really nice replication of the map. And I think I'm going to test something, and I'll cut this out if it doesn't work, but I think, there we go. So you can kind of make your own moon runes here. That's why the runes are on the back. It would have been pretty cool if they made them glow in the dark, but I guess this is the next best thing. All right, so there's one map, and I think there's another goodie in the back. We'll go ahead and open this up. Right away, we get Tolkien's illustration of Hobbiton across the water, the hill Hobbiton across the water, which is a pretty iconic image. And I think we'll get a lot of these along the way, like sketches and stuff. So it looks like maybe this is an illustration of the dwarves, perhaps. We've got a nice title page here. We've got the green text. Then the list of illustrations, which is a nice touch. Like I said, there's over 50 illustrations and sketches and maps and everything. And according to what I've read online, some of those are being published for the first time. So it'll be pretty cool to see those. I'm guessing most of those will be sketch type things. And here we see Tolkien's sketch. So this is a preliminary version of Thror's map, it seems like. It's got the hand pointing. We see the Lonely Mountain here. And these are replications of some of Tolkien's original writings. Here we have a nice sketch, Gate of the Elven King's Halls. Here we have what seems to be kind of a rough sketch of Gandalf arriving at Bilbo's house of Bag End. There we have Gandalf standing outside the door. I've got to say, I just kind of find it really fun to read The Hobbit in particular. I know it's been published many times with Tolkien's own illustrations. And I love the Alan Lee edition that I've got on my shelf as well. But there's something kind of charming about reading this with Tolkien's illustrations. There's the Trolls Hill. Here's the Trolls. We get some nice vivid color on some of these. So there's a lot of sketches, obviously, that are a little more rough, but then those illustrations that he did finish, we get them in some nice vivid color here. So this is obviously when the trolls are turned to stone. Riding down into Rivendell. And there we get an image we've seen before of Rivendell itself. And I have to say, I really want to go to the Lauterbrunnen, which is the place in Switzerland where that Tolkien was inspired to make Rivendell based on. Another thing I just noticed is we see the songs are actually in green text, which kind of matches the cover of the book. This is something that they also did for The Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion, where the text of things like songs and I believe the ring script, things like that were inset are written in a color to match the cover. So we get that green text here. It's a nice touch. Mountain Path. There we go. We've got another song here in green. Going down to Goblin Town there. And the riddles, too. It looks like the riddles are also set in the green. And here we have the midpoint, out of the frying pan into the fire. And we do get one of the bookmark strings that have come standard on all these. And I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the bookmark strings. I was a little surprised that this was blue instead of green at first glance, but then I realized it matches the edges of the pages. Misty Mountains looking west from the Eyrie toward Goblin Gate. It's a really nice image. Here's a pretty well-known one of Bilbo waking up with the early sun in his eyes. And here we have, I like that they included this too, because you do get some illustration, some sketching here, but you also get some of Tolkien's handwriting, which is notoriously horrible. So you can make a little exercise of trying to read the professor's handwriting. It doesn't seem like he was terribly concerned with legibility. But here we have an early manuscript page together with a sketch map of east of the Misty Mountains. Oh, there we have Beorn's Hall, the Elven King's Gate from across the river. Ah, here's a really nice looking one, the Elven King's Gate. This one you've no doubt seen before. It was also on the cover of the Maker of Middle-earth book. Really nice piece of Bilbo on the barrels as they're riding down the river. Here's a fun little sketch where they're getting out of their barrels. I think they've washed up on shore here, and you can see the little hat sticking out. Ah, here we have Lake Town. Looks really nice. Ah, there we go. Conversation with Smaug. Another classic Tolkien illustration. Ah, the death of Smaug. Smaug's about to fall down in his ruin. And there we have the Hall of Bag End. We've got Bilbo in his home to close out the book, which is a nice little touch. So we get a lot of these illustrations that we've seen before. I think they look really nice and really vivid in this printing. But then we also get like a lot of new little sketches and stuff throughout. I didn't by any means hit up every single illustration in this book, but hopefully that gives you a taste of what's within. And on the back, we've got another goodie. Let's see what this is. Okay, so this is Tolkien's map of Wilderland. So we can kind of trace Bilbo's journey if we wished. It's always fun to have a nice copy of Tolkien's maps. As you can imagine, I am a huge fan of maps. I think I say that every time that one comes included with a book, but I'm never going to complain about maps being included here. All right, and with that, let's move over to the Deluxe Edition. This one obviously has a higher price point, so let's see what you get for your money in this one. All right, so just like Lord of the Rings and Silmarillion, we get this nice slip case. It's a little different in that we've got a booklet in with this one. And we'll cover that in just a moment. And again, it comes in a nice slipcase here, nice hard slipcase. And we pull it out, and I really like that they go with black to pair with the colors. I think that looks really sharp, and it really helps, you know, the gold and the green to pop on here. So we've got the same design, same rooms, the Hobbit, or There and Back Again. And we've got the spine that matches the others as well. And I'll get the other two out so you can see how they look if you stack them side by side. And then the back side of the slipcase has the J.R.R. Tolkien logo that we all know so well. All right, so presumably we're going to get some similar items in here. First off, though, we're going to get something different. So this is actually a replication of Thorin's letter to Bilbo that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote. This is in Elvish script, so this is in Tengwar. But this is the letter that Thorin writes to Bilbo. And then it says here at the bottom, see page 30 of the booklet for a translation and history. So we'll set that aside and we'll cover that in just a moment with the booklet. And then we open this up. And I'm guessing this will be the same but larger like last year. Yep, so this is the same map, but it is larger than the standard edition one. So here's the regular edition and there's the deluxe edition. So quite a bit bigger. It's just beyond the edge of my frame here. But you can kind of get a sense for how much bigger this is. If I set it in the corner there, you can see quite a bit bigger in the deluxe edition. So same thing. It's got the runes printed on the back, so you can do the magic trick and show your dwarf moon runes. And then this actually has a gold on the edge, which I really, really like that. That's a really cool touch to have gold. I think that looks really sharp. So we're going to get a lot of the same illustrations, actually all of the same illustrations, I should say. And they do have the green text for the songs and such. But yeah, we're going to get the exact same images throughout, so I won't cover those this time around. The ribbon bookmark is green in this one, which I'll admit, I do like the green better in this edition, which this doesn't have the blue pages. So if anything, I guess it would have gold, but yeah, I really like the green. All right, and in the back, we've got a replication. So this is a little bit thicker. This is like a cardstock material. This is a replication of Tolkien's illustration that shows up on the original Hobbit cover. Fun fact, this is not how the first edition was actually printed, because they took out the orange to save cost on the number of colors that they were printing. And then later they went back and added the orange, which I really like. It adds some pop to it. And then once again, we are going to have a map of Wilderland. Again, quite a bit bigger than the standard edition. And with that, let's get into the booklet, which is probably the most interesting piece, aside from just the overall presentation of the deluxe edition. It's obviously a really nice edition to have on your shelf. But the booklet here is really kind of interesting. So this is called Mathams, a treasury of writings, including a brief history of and other works related to The Hobbit. So now this is an 88-page book, and it's got some really cool things in here. We've got a little bit on the history of The Hobbit from Hammond and Skull. We've got Thorin's letter to Bilbo, so that's what this piece was right here. So here we have the page. On page 32, we get the image front and back of this replication that we got reprinted within the book. And then we have the translation that thanks Bilbo for his hospitality and tells him when and where to meet them the next morning, 11 a.m. sharp, trusting that you will be punctual. We have the honor to remain yours deeply, Thorin and company. Finally, what we have, these last three things that are in this booklet, I think will be the most interesting to Tolkien fans. First, we have The Hoard by J.R.R. Tolkien, which is a poem that he wrote. And we've got this lovely illustration by Pauline Baines, who you've probably heard of if you're a Tolkien fan. Definitely if you're a Narnia fan, you'll be familiar with her stuff because she did a lot of illustrations for C.S. Lewis's books. But this is a poem that Tolkien wrote where there's this old elven hoard, and it's taken by a dragon, a dwarf, and a man, and we see these characters one by one be consumed by greed, and eventually they all are killed in turn. It's just kind of this cool poem about this cycle of greed and death. And then finally, there's two pieces that I think are really cool. We've got a lecture on dragons from J.R.R. Tolkien, and then we have a talk that Tolkien gave to a group of children at the University of Oxford Museum back on New Year's Day, 1938. So this would have been the year after The Hobbit came out. I think those are really cool pieces to include here. Obviously, Smaug is such a huge part of the story, and Tolkien definitely had a love of dragons and stories about dragons. So that's a pretty cool addition, in my opinion. I love that we get Tolkien's talk on dragons, and anytime that we can go further into the mind of what is, in my opinion, the greatest fantasy author of all time, I am totally up for that. And with that, I'm going to bring out the other deluxe editions so we can kind of see these side by side, see how they go together. We've got The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and the Silmarillion. If we were to put them in Middle-earth chronological order, that's what we would get. If I had a gripe about this new Hobbit edition, it's the booklet that comes with it. It really sticks out when you hold them all up together like this. So I'd be really tempted to take that out. But then you'll have kind of this extra wiggle room with The Hobbit. I think maybe if they would have made this the same deep green, it could have worked really well, or maybe even put that in the book. I don't know. I'm not a publisher. I don't have all the ideas, but I think there might have been a more clean way to do that so that these would look a little bit more uniform, and that bright green would be less distracting. The big question now is what comes next after this? I have a feeling that between these three volumes of The Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings, and The Hobbit, we've probably gotten all there is to get with Tolkien illustrations, at least as far as illustrating an entire book with his pieces. It makes me wonder what we're going to have next, and I actually have an idea that I would personally like to see, which is to reissue one volume at a time the entire History of Middle-earth series. And the reason being is I think it could be a really cool opportunity to get some interesting and unique illustrations from some of the really deep cut and abandoned Tolkien material. Imagine having some amazing Tolkien artists, whether it be Alan Lee, John Howe, and Ted Naismith, or some other Tolkien artists that they hire, to illustrate things like when Tolkien had Tevildo, the Prince of Cats, who was eventually replaced by Sauron. That coming in the Book of Lost Tales Part 2. Or what about the Lost Road from the Lost Road and Other Writings, where the fall of Numenor is told through this time travel mechanic of fathers and sons descended from Elendil? Or maybe The New Shadow, which was Tolkien's abandoned sequel to The Lord of the Rings. We could get some really cool illustrations of that, of this dark foreboding coming into Gondor. That comes up in The Peoples of Middle-earth. It's hard to say what HarperCollins is going to end up doing next, but personally, I think that would be a really fun thing to do, to get us some illustrations and maybe some renewed interest in this really deep cut stuff. And as always, I love singing the praises of Christopher Tolkien, who assembled all of this amazing, amazing writing of his father to give us things like the Silmarillion, obviously, but then this entire vast History of Middle-earth collection. Well, guys, that's going to do it for me. Again, we've got The Hobbit, illustrated by J.R.R. Tolkien himself. I adore this book. It's absolutely one of my favorite books of all time, if not my favorite. And we've got the regular edition, the deluxe edition. Let me know in the comments which of these editions you're picking up, if you're picking one of them up. And also let me know what you think of my History of Middle-earth illustrated editions idea. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.